Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Laura Hallett. I'm the spiritual director here. And welcome to our Wednesday evening experience. Our Wednesday nights are all about the practice, about how we can use our spiritual practices to have a different experience of our connection with Spirit and our connection with each other and our life in general. Joining us here tonight is a few of our people, and we've got some more coming in. So come on in, ladies, and join us. I want to say hi to everyone who's joining us online. Thank you very much for being here with us. We appreciate that too. We usually have as many, if not more, people joining us online on Wednesday nights than in person, but it's a fabulous opportunity for everyone to be together. So tonight, our third Wednesday of the month, is all about exploring the mystics and the spiritual practices that they did that got them to be what we would call mystics, to be so sure of their connection with Spirit that their life is completely transformed. And there are several things that characterize a mystic. One is that we all have an inner life and an outer life. We all have a life that's going on inside of us, our connection with Source, our way of understanding the world, and then we have our day-to-day interactions. Well, a mystic, for them, their inner life becomes much more important than their outer life. It becomes that they want to spend more time in their inner life than they ever would want to spend in their outer life. And it becomes a deeper and richer experience for them. Mystics almost all have had some kind of experience that afterwards they were forever changed. Something has happened in their life that has taken them to a different place. And, oftentimes when we think of the mystics, we think of the people that we've heard of before, like St. Francis, or last month we talked about Rumi. I like to explore mystics from different faith traditions. This month we are looking at one of my favorite mystics. It was actually the first one I was pretty much introduced to. And her name was St. Teresa of Avila. She was born in 1515 in a little town in Spain. And she was born to a family of Catholic convertants. They had been, when her father was a child, and his family, they were Jewish. Now, they were Jewish in the time of the Inquisition in Spain. So you can imagine what that kind of meant for them. They had to either convert to Catholicism or risk their lives. It was down to that point. And so when her father was a young man, his family converted. And part of the conversion, they had to, for 7 Fridays in a row, they had to crawl through the streets of the town on their hands and knees and stop and pray at every shrine that was in the town. And all the while, all of the other townspeople are, spitting on them, throwing food at them, ridiculing them, all of those things. And her father was so traumatized by the event that he wasn't going to let that happen to his kids. And so he became a super devout Catholic. And then when Teresa's mother died when she was 12 years old, and Teresa was a little bit of a spitfire. She was a little bit full of it, and so her father, in her teenage years, decides she needs to go to the convent. So she goes to the convent, and actually she liked the convent because it had less rules than her father's house. And so she was actually having a good time there. And then it came time as a young woman to decide whether she was going to pursue a religious life or get married. That was the choice. And so she decided that she was going to pursue the religious life because, again, she just had a lot more freedom than she would have as married to somebody. During the early 1500s in Spain, you can imagine. So Teresa is going along, and she was a bit of a problem as a young novice in her convent. She didn't like to follow the rules very much, even though they were easier rules than her dad's. She didn't care for that. But she's going along one day, and they're getting ready for a big celebration at the convent. And so the people have been cleaning like crazy. And so she's going through the hallway, and she sees a statue of Jesus that's been pushed up against the wall and is about to fall over. It's leaning up there, and she's, gets a little irritated that somebody has not taken care of this and left it in such a condition. And so she goes to move the statue. And the way she describes the experience was that the statue opened its eyes and looked at her and then began to speak. And it was a statue of Jesus. And she called Jesus, for the rest of her life, she called Jesus the Beloved. The experience was so profound for her that she laid the statue down on the ground and just sat there for hours listening to it, speaking to her. A few years later, she gets malaria and was so close to death they had already dug her grave. And she recovers from it. It takes her 3 years of being bedridden to actually recover from it. But during this time, she starts to have all of these mystical experiences. All of these. There were times when her body even levitated off of the bed because she was so in such a trance of connection with spirit and source. And so she began to understand how important it was to get to that place in your life where you can transcend your everyday stuff and move on to having this mystical connection. And so she began to develop what she called the interior castle. As I said, she was a bit of a rebel. She decided she was going to open her own convent. That she was a Carmelite nun, and she followed the rules of scarcity and poverty and chastity and all of that more strictly than any of the other nuns there at the convent. And so she didn't like what they were doing. So she became what they called a discalced or barefoot Carmelite. In other words, they give up their shoes. They want to be in poverty so much that they would give up every possession that they have. So they would be barefoot. And she began working on this book of hers called The Interior Castle. And during this time, she was also forming her own order of the Discalced Carmelites. And there was a group of young monks who started following her work. One of those young monks was a man named John, who later on became known as St. John of the Cross. He was a disciple of St. Teresa. John of the Cross is most known for his phenomenal book called The Dark Night of the Soul. And it's a lot about his experience of moving through these things similar to the way that Teresa did. So anyway, this castle that she has, she says that each one of us has a crystal castle within us, that our consciousness is a crystal castle. This is the quote from her book. I began to think of the soul as if it was a castle made of a single diamond or a very clear crystal, in which there are many rooms, just as in heaven there are many mansions, some above, some below, others at each side. And in the center and in the midst of all of them was the most important mansion, where the most secret things pass between God and the soul. And so for her, this work of the mansion is about going through each one of these, or the work of the castle is going through each one of the mansions that are in the castle, and then each of the rooms that are in the mansion. So there are 7 mansions in the castle, the way she described it. And there are varying numbers of rooms in each mansion. It just depends on what you have to work through. So the first 3 mansions are more about our life in this world. As I said, we have this inner life and our outer life. So this is more about our outer life. And so the first mansion is the power of prayer, humility, chaos, and divine seduction. The second mansion is God is in the details. This is where our inner vision and our soul companions are found. The third mansion is about surrender. It's about recognizing that we can release all of this stuff and find that presence of God. The fourth mansion is the mystical heart. And that's where things begin to shift. When we can get into that mystical heart, we begin to have more of an inner experience than we have an outer experience. The fifth mansion is dissolving into holiness, which is moving on even past the mystical heart. The sixth mansion is the essential wisdom and the final fire. And then the seventh mansion is what she called the divine marriage, which was that union of the two, so that there was no separation between spirit and us. And so, what I thought I'd like to do tonight, as a practice for what Teresa did, is take you into the fourth mansion, into the mystical heart, because we do all kinds of work here in the centers, and we do it in our own life about clearing all of our stuff. We clear all of our stuff in the outer world so much easier than we ever do taking it deep inside of us. And so I thought, instead of starting with the basic stuff like that, we would go right to that mystical heart and see how about communing, doing a meditation, communing with that essence of the mystical heart. The work that I'm citing today is from Carolyn Mace's book, Entering the Castle, which is all about St. Teresa's work. She took this from a book by Mirabai Starr, which is an English translation of the Interior Castle, which is St. Teresa's book. And so Mirabai Starr, some of the information that I just gave you came from the work of Mirabai Starr, which she's got a great book too, Wild Mercy it's called, which she talks a lot about St. Teresa in that. So anyway, we're going to do one of the, we're going to do 3 rooms in the fourth mansion as part of our meditation. And it sounds like it's a lot, but it goes by pretty quickly. The things blend right together. And so we are going to do, let me see if I can find it. I think it's the second, third, and fourth room of the fourth castle, the fourth mansion. Second, third, and fourth room of the fourth mansion. There we go. So I'm going to take you into a little bit of a contemplation and then take you through some of the exercises that are involved in moving through these mansions. Very much all of them are contemplative. It doesn't require you to do anything physical or anything like that. It's a contemplative kind of meditation. So Joe's going to give us a little bit of background music. He's going to take the lights down a bit for us. And we're just going to go into this contemplation. When we finish it, we'll have a little discussion just to see what came through as we move through this time together. So I just invite you to get comfortable in your seats. I do that by feeling the pressure of my body up against the chair. It reminds me that I'm very secure, very safe. These chairs are very firm and actually kind of comfortable. They support us well. And I also recognize the pressure of the shoes and the floor up against the soles of my feet, knowing that I'm perfectly grounded right here. And then I just bring my attention to my breath. Not trying to change it, just noticing how it moves in and out of my body. And so as we move into this contemplation, we're going to first begin with water. I want you to just imagine the sound of water falling. Not rushing or gushing, but just a gentle, easy flow of water. Maybe from a garden hose or a waterfall or a fountain in a backyard. St. Teresa called water our spiritual sweetness. Or sometimes she called it grace itself. So just imagine that water is moving in through you. Just imagine it in your chest cavity, gently falling and making its sweet sounds. Now imagine the sound of this mystical water running within your soul. Imagine it running through your whole body. From the top of your head, down through your torso, into your arms and legs, and out through the soles of your feet. Imagine this crystal clear, cool, sparkling, mystical water flushing out all of the debris from your body, all of the negative thoughts from your mind, and all of the tumultuous emotions. Just let them be carried away on this water, this spiritual sweetness. Imagine that this water is cleansing you of your history, of all of your physical pain, of any stiffness or inflammation, of any sadness or anger. Just imagine it all being carried away on this water, on grace itself. Just feel it flushing on through you, removing anything that is not serving you in this moment. Feel your body being refreshed by it. Each cell of your being is soaking in that spiritual sweetness. Each cell puffing up and becoming alive with this vibrant, life-giving water, with grace itself. And know that it is just moving through you, removing all of the impurities and everything that's unnecessary in this moment. And now bring your awareness to your heart center. I like to think of that as that place in my chest cavity right behind my sternum, between my lungs. The fourth mansion is the realm of the Sacred Heart. It is the domain of the cosmic consciousness. Now imagine that you are just your soul, that you are detached from this physical body that you are sitting in right now. Imagine viewing your body from a foot above you. Now let your soul consciousness rise up to the ceiling of this room, about 6 feet above you. And look down. Now let your soul consciousness move on beyond the walls of this building and look down at this neighborhood. And like a helium balloon, allow your soul consciousness to continue to rise so that your view becomes more expanded. And you're looking down on all of our beautiful valley. The lights are coming out. The strip is illuminated. You see the movement of the vehicles on the road. And continue to rise where you see all of southern Nevada into Utah and Arizona and California. And just continue to allow your soul consciousness to rise up until you can see all of the United States and North America and the oceans on both sides. And continue to rise up until you can see the entire world from a distance. That beautiful blue-green ball of life. You can see that the earth is tiny, spinning within a limitless universe of billions of stars and planets. And you are illuminated with the mystical truth that life is so very brief, and that only the true purpose is measured in how much love and grace we allow to flow into our souls during our lifetime. How much love and grace we allow to flow into our souls during our lifetime. Your soul is so expansive it encompasses this entire earth and beyond. Imagine it taking in that much love and that much grace. Open yourself up to feeling this mystical love. Don't try to imagine it or think about it. Just open up to it. This quality of love, this mystical, grace-filled love, cannot be imagined in the mind. Mystical love is a gift of grace. And you must prepare yourself to receive it, to be open, to accepting this mystical love that is wanting to flow into your experience. Now see yourself getting closer to the earth again. See your heart filling with the love of the earth and everything within it. Imagine your heart becoming as big as the planet. Imagine all of that being right in your heart center, and you encompassing the entire planet and all of its inhabitants with this mystical love. Now holding this mystical love in your heart, this love for all humanity, for all the inhabitants of the world, the plants, the animals, the creepy crawlies, the insects, the rocks and crystals, the water, the air. Imagine yourself infusing each one of these beloved beings with that mystical love, with that divine grace. As you move about the planet, do what the Aboriginal folks call a walkabout. And just see yourself on a map of the world, moving from one country to another, one continent to another, skipping across the oceans. As you spread this mystical, magical love all over the world. Mystical love is a powerful healing agent, and you can channel it. And this act of channeling this mystical love in service of humanity that you perform is the best service you can do to the world. But it's a service that we keep close to ourselves, between ourselves, our soul companions, and the God of our own understanding. Keep it private. Don't go about shouting that you're channeling love and grace all over the world. This channeling of mystical love for healing is part of a contemporary mystic's practice. Prayer work engages the flow of grace by centering your attention and settling those fragments of energy spinning in your psychic field. So do this often. Let's just take in a nice deep breath. Maybe do that a couple more times just to reintegrate all of our parts into this time and space. Once again, become aware of the furniture, the room around us, the other participants. And when you're ready, just go ahead and open your eyes. How does it feel to think of yourself as a channel for mystical love? I have a microphone if anybody would like to share anything about that. How does it feel to be a channel for mystical love?
It felt absolutely wonderful.
Here, pass it on down. Speak into the microphone, Bridget, please.
It felt absolutely wonderful.
Beautiful.
And what happened to me is when you started, it was your voice, which I know. But the more I went higher and higher, your voice was like an echo. It became smaller and smaller, but I heard every word.
Oh, beautiful.
But it was really, really a wonderful experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that something she did, or is that from the book from?
This is from Carolyn Mace's interpretation of Teresa's work. So Mirabai Starr translated it, and then Carolyn Mace put it into a language that is acceptable for us.
For us.
Yeah.
It's just, this was one of the most beautiful things you ever did.
Well, thank you.
Beautiful.
Anyone else want to share anything? Doug, you got one? It's on, I think. Joe had them ready.
For me, as you observed, the higher that I got, the clearer it reminded me of what feels more and more as the truth with a capital T. And it is that declaration, that treatment that is in that writing of, I believe it's Dr. Holmes that was in that printout that you passed out last Wednesday, and yet has been available for years as a little printout, and it is that there is one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. What an absolute reinforcement of the blessing of the gift of this experience for me as I enter what is so profoundly the next phase of this adventure called life, that however it expresses itself, that expression will be perfect. And I am grateful for that reassurance. And it makes me, as a person who sometimes feel alone, reminds me that I am never alone.
Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful. Go ahead, Katie.
Yes, so probably the most poignant part of the meditation for me was the visualization of having the planet Earth in my heart center. it was really a fulfilling thing, no pun intended. And I really liked the part where before you went into that, we were, what you were saying was taking us on a journey around the planet. It just it really made it easy to have encompass the planet as being in my heart center. And I really like that part because you were talking about loving all the creepy crawlies and loving all the rocks and the crystals. And I I had some infamous politicians enter my mind that
Yeah.
I really needed to love. Maybe I don't need to like,
all the
but
creepy crawlies.
and it was a really poignant, beautiful
Thank you.
meditation. Thank you.
I really love the part of the water. To me, that was so profound. That was it, sweetness of spiritual life, or I can't remember the phrase now, but spiritual sweetness, the spiritual sweetness, the grace of life. Imagining that water, just that cool, clear water. I could just imagine myself coming out of a pool or being in a waterfall or something like that, and just feeling that, and that every single cell of my body just absorbs that refreshing, life-giving water, that has been so metaphorically and profoundly described throughout the centuries, because water is so necessary for our bodies. And, we're, I don't know, a lot of us are 90% or something water. I don't remember what it is now, 80%, 70 to 80% water. So, just imagining that, it's like, oh, I've been refreshed. And now that I'm refreshed, I can give. And I can give from that place of being refreshed. And as I said towards the end there, this is the mystical life. It's not the. Well, how many of you had to like, oh, wait a minute, this is too big for me kind of feeling? Anybody have that? Yeah. Like, oh no, I can't do this. It's not for the faint of heart.
And then I settled in.
And you settled into it, yeah.
I was like, well, yes, I can.
Right.
Of course I can do that, because the universe is like a drop of water, and I'm in the universe, and the universe is in me. So yes, I can put the planet Earth in my heart center.
I will try to remember every time I drink water
Ah.
that this is this wonderful spiritual
Spiritual sweetness.
sweetness.
Yes.
It will really help me with drinking more water.
Remember what we did several years ago where we used to write words on our bottles of water? Maybe we need to do that, spiritual sweetness, to remind ourselves.
Beautiful.
I think that's a good idea. I could do labels. do some crafty thing with it.
I thought there was one really interesting, I know she came from a time where she was probably not at all familiar with the Indian traditions and, but she actually almost went to the 7 chakra, to the 7 center. And the 4th chakra is, you felt, the 4 is the heart center.
Right.
So she just had different names
Yes.
for something which the mystics have spoken about for thousands
Right.
of years. That's
And
what I
again,
thought.
the first 3 mansions
Yeah.
deal with the lower level
That
chakras.
is exactly what
They're dealing with like the first one, humility, chaos, and seduction. And then it moves on up. So, not quite exactly what we would call the chakras, but there are certainly 7 levels, and it moves from the lower levels up into the higher realms. So, definitely that kind of idea.
Definitely a connection.
But they do talk about that one mind that doesn't matter what religion it is, it kind of fades through each one of them. So it's wonderful. All right. Anything else come up for you during this time? Good.
I've been really having some issues with a hip.
Uh-huh.
And the pain's gone.
Good. We just, and what I do with things like that is like every time, if it comes back, I just try to do the practice again. And, maybe it'll go away for another 15, 20 minutes, and maybe it'll go away for 2 hours, and maybe I forget about it. Maybe it'll go away forever, so there's so much we can do. This work is so profound, not just the way that St. Teresa did it, but the work of the mystics is just, it's we often think of mystics as somebody that is really special, but they're ordinary people living ordinary lives who have some experience that forever changes them, that takes them to a different level of consciousness, that moves them into a different place in their spiritual development, and they're forever changed. And then people around them are changed by being in their presence and by, the work that she did with St. John of the Cross, profound work. They put him on his path to being where he was in his life. And so just, she tried to follow a lot of St. Francis's teachings. She was about 200 years after St. Francis. He was in Italy, she was in Spain, not too far apart, but, knew a little bit about that. And just a wonderful woman. So the first thing that ever introduced me to St. Teresa was a poem of hers, which I've used it so much I know it. So I want to leave us with this poem from St. Teresa of Avila, and it's called "You Are God's Hands." So if you would just close your eyes. You are God's hands, the hands with which it goes about doing God's work. You are God's feet that helps it move around the earth. You are God's eyes with which God looks out at the world in wonder. And you are God's heart, a blessing to all. And so it is. So thank you all for joining us tonight. We do have some cookies and coffee and hot water and stuff. Tonight the water's actually hot. It didn't get hot last night, so I made sure it was tonight. If you're joining us online, we appreciate you being with us. We are a 501c3, so we receive all of our funding through donations. So those of you that are online, there's a little link beneath the video that says click here to donate to Center for Spiritual Living. We gratefully receive any of your donations to help support us. For those of you that are in person, there's a donation box in the back. If you'd like to leave a donation, there's an envelope on the side there if you want to have it identifiable so that you can get tax credit. You're welcome to do that. But please stay and have a little fellowship with us. Coffee, tea, cookies. All right. Yes. Who's the next saint? The next saint is actually not a saint. He is a Greek philosopher called Plotinus. From way back when. He's in that period when Greek and Christianity were coming together. So Plotinus is the next mystic that we're going to look at. Yes. So I've tried to choose them from different faith traditions. Next week is our mind-body connection night, and I forgot to look up what the title was, but it's something about working on our minds and our bodies together and how we can clear things. So, what's that? Pain. We're working on pain next week. So, using our mind-body connection to heal pain. Yeah, to move through pain in our bodies with our mind-body connection. So, I love the work of like Joe Dispenza and Bruce Lipton and some of the Deepak Chopra and the work that they do on mind-body healing. And so we'll be pulling some information from that. And then, of course, the following week is our Labyrinth Walk. And Kelly's going to be leading that Labyrinth Walk in April. So, because I'm going to be in Mexico walking a labyrinth there. So, Kelly's going to lead the Labyrinth Walk for us in April. So it'll be wonderful. The first Wednesday of the month is the Labyrinth Walk. The second Wednesday of the month is a spiritual practice. I don't even know what the next one is. And then the third Wednesday is Mystics. The fourth Wednesday is Mind-Body Connection. And when we have a fifth Wednesday, we do what we call Hyacinths for the Soul, which is the work of Joel Goldsmith, who's one of the mystics that we will talk about later this year. So, thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. Have some coffee and cookies. Thank you for joining us online. Thank you for playing with us tonight.